So here's a second example we're going to work through just to practice some more. It says, suppose a company has two departments, service and production. Given the consumption matrix, draw a weighted diagraph, which is our consumption diagraph, another term for it, to show the flow of goods and services within this company. So here we're going the opposite direction. We're given the matrix and we're going to change it into the diagraph or the flow chart here. So our two different departments are service, I'm going to put an S in one, and production, a P in the other box. So this first, I'm going to go one element of my matrix at a time. That first one, that 0.05, is going, remember these are our from, put an F here for from, and this is where it's going to. So from service to service, so that's a loop, draw a little arrow so we know where it's going, is 0.05, and again that decimal represents a percent, so that's technically 5% of what services produces is being used by services. I'm going to go down the column here, so this one, that 0.04, is from production to services. So I'm going to draw an arrow from production to services. An arrow to show the direction, and that is 0.04, again 4%. Next, we're going from services to production, so from services to production, and we're going to label that with 0.20, and that will be 20% being used. And lastly, from production to production, so that's a loop, and we're going to label that with 0.01, that's a 1%. So now that we have it set up, we have a few problems to go through and work out with this given information. So first part B says complete the following. For every dollar's worth of output, the service department requires blank cents worth of input from its own department. So we're going to stop right there. So we are talking about the service department. And we're talking about how much it requires worth of input from its own department. So we're going from its own department. So it's inputting from the service department to the service department. So that's 5%, but we're talking about a dollar's worth. So we want 5% of a dollar, so you just multiply 1 times 0.05, which actually ends up being 0.05, which in terms of dollars is 5 cents. And secondly, we move on to the next part, and blank cents worth of input, so what's coming into the service department from the production department. So from production to service is 4% of a dollar, so we would do 1 times 0.04 this time, which would give us 0.04, which ends up being 4 cents. Okay, so now we talked about the services here, so this one's probably going to be talking about production. So for every dollar's worth of output, the production department requires blank cents worth of input from its own department. So it's going from its own department, so from production to production, that's 1% of a dollar, which ends up being 1 cent. And then it also requires blank cents worth of input from the service department, so from service to production, so that'd be 20% of a dollar, which is actually just 20 cents.